Hello class, welcome to our lesson today. This actually deals with section 10.6 and is an extension of 10.6. There's some topics that we have to make sure we look at when it comes to sampling. So I think you have seen most of these before, but I want to make sure that we're on the right track before we move into section 10.7. The first question that we're going to look at may be a little bit overwhelming at first glance. It deals with a lot of fractions and solving the equations. Notice here that this first one has a 1/3 out front. Now, typically what we do is we distribute this number into the quantity or into this part with parentheses. I would caution you on this situation, and instead, why not just get rid of this 1/3 right at the beginning? To get rid of the 1/3, I could just multiply right away by its reciprocal, because that's the same as dividing by 1/3. So if I multiply the left side by 3/1, this 1/3 and 3 are gone, and I don't have to worry about any distributing. That means there's less multiplication of that fraction on that left side. It might be a little bit easier for you to solve. When I multiply by 3/1 on the right side, I get 2/3 because the 3 and 9 will cross simplify. And then it's x minus a 6 equals 2/3. I'm just going to add 1/6 to both sides. My rules don't change. I still do the addition and subtraction rules the same way that I did before. In this case, though, what you'll notice is I made 2/3 into 4/6. The reason for doing that is to make sure I have a common denominator between the 1/6 and the 2/3. And then I get my answer of x equals 5/6. In the second one, again, you could distribute if you wanted. It will work out. I'm just going to show the idea of multiplying by its reciprocal right away, because that might be a skill that you'll have to look at later. So to get rid of 3/4, I'm going to multiply both sides by 4/3. When I get to that point, I get 2/3 x minus 1/2 equals 5/6. I cross simplified the 4 and the 8, made it 2 and 1. I add 1/2 to both sides because the opposite of subtraction is addition. 5/6 plus 1/2 or 3/6 is 8/6. Now from here, you could simplify that if you wanted, or you could wait until the very end and see what you get. To get rid of 2/3, I'm going to divide by 2/3, but dividing by a fraction is multiplied by its reciprocal. So you're going to have to multiply by 3/2 on both sides. This will cross simplify down. 8 and 2 become 4 and 1, and 3 and 6 become 1 and 2. And this ends up being 4/2, which is just 2 as your final answer. The key thing that you want to take away from this slide is dealing with this fraction coefficient out front. Maybe to get rid of it, just multiply by the reciprocal. The next information says that you took a random list of a survey of 20 students and found what their favorite type of music was. Based on your results, make an inference about all 800 students. So in my case, I got 10 out of my 20, and I'm going to set that equal to x over 800. I could either do it times 40 from left to right, or I could cross multiply. Either result should give me a result of 400. So my inference, my guess would be that there would be 400 people based on my data set. One of my friends collected data from 20 random people in the school, and now their inference is a little bit different. They got 13 out of the 20, and so if you do your cross-multiplying technique with 13 out of 20 instead, you'll end up with 520 people that prefer pop music compared to mine, which was just 400. 3 more friends actually did the same exact experiment, collected data, and they ended up with different answers even than the 2 of us that already did it. I've got 8 people, 10 people, and 9 people. And if I do my cross-multiplying technique, I was kind of out of space on this slide, but if I do the same cross-multiply technique, or multiplication by 40, for example, I'll end up with 320, 400, and 360. What you'll notice here is that we have a big range of numbers. We had a 320, we had a 360, we had 2 400s, and a 520. So the question is, well, what do we do with all of those people, or with all of those different inferences? Maybe the best option is to take all 5 and collect them and maybe average them. So if I take all 5 of those numbers and average them, I'll take all of those pieces and I'll get 400 as my average. Now that is just happenstance that was my original amount. But the idea of all of these inferences together is if you take multiple samples of the same information, hopefully the more you collect, the closer you'll get to what it should be. It won't ever be exact, but you could see if maybe a data set was collected differently because, man, your numbers are way different. What happened there? Was there some biased nature to how you collected the data? The goal is that our numbers are similar. Now, some of people would say, well, 320 is a lot different than 400. But when we average them all together, it becomes much closer and shows that some are higher and some are lower as we're looking at those situations. The other thing that you need to be able to do from this section is dealing with things like the mean, the median, the mode, and the range. Now, hopefully this isn't the first time that you've seen these ideas, but if you're very confused about any of these four options, there's plenty of information that you can search for, but let's just go through all four to make sure we can find it. To find the mean, that's to find the average. Your homework questions are going to have a little bit of this. I want you to try them without your calculator, though. They'll be set up in such a way that that will be doable. For example, for this one, I just add up all the numbers, and I get 209. Since there's 10 numbers involved, I'm going to divide by 10, and I get a mean of 20.9. Yes, it may take a little bit to work on that. We haven't done a lot with kind of doing some of those things by hand, so I'd like you to try that out for your homework. The median number is the middle number. Now, the problem with the median is the way the data set's given to you is you have to rearrange this. You have to order it from least to greatest. Now, I know what many of you do is you kind of work from the two ends and you say, oh, those two go together, these two go together, these two go together, etc. And if you do that, you end up with 15 and 16 being right in the middle. Once you get to that point, if there's not an exact middle number, you should average those two and then see what the average is. So this case would be 15.5. The mode is the number that occurs the most. In this case, there's two numbers, 14 and 15 both occur twice, so they would both be the mode. And the range is the highest minus the lowest number. Okay, and that would be 27. You really need to be comfortable in all four of these situations. These are statistical measures that you're going to deal with. We'll deal with some of them this year and some in future years. Okay, for now, as long as you can find all four, that's going to be our goal. For a data set to kind of be in a certain type of what's known as a bell-shaped curve or kind of continuity in the middle, our goal is to see if the mean, median, and mode are kind of close to each other. In this case, the mean is a little bit further off than the median and the mode. That probably means there's some type of skewness to the data or more the data is on one side. If you look at this information, look at all the numbers that are really low here versus these couple numbers that are way up high. That's probably a good indication that that was what is happening in this question. The second data set, I'm going to have you try to find some of the mean, median, mode, and range of this data. Ask a few questions about that in our video. Go ahead and try that one out. For the mean, add up all the numbers, divide by the total amount of numbers. For the median, you have to find the middle number. Okay, don't forget you have to order them first. The mode is the one that occurs the most, and the range of the data set is the highest minus the lowest. Please make sure you try that. If there's any questions, make sure you talk to your teacher about it, because if this problem is causing a lot of issues, you're going to have a lot of issues on the next couple lessons. So please make sure that you're working on that as we move forward. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to look at some of those questions. Your homework today has two pieces. You need to look up the definition and write down an example of what's known as the interquartile range. That's abbreviated IQR. We're going to use that in tomorrow's lesson, so make sure that you have a definition and an example. It may not make perfect sense right now, but please write them down. And then you're going to find the mean, median, mode, try to find the IQR and the range of the data set that's right here. You should have a little bit of work shown, no calculator, and make sure that you show your work, especially on finding the mean. Don't forget about ordering data for the median. Make sure you try the IQR or the interquartile range. We'll talk about that more in our next lesson, but I want everyone to have a chance to try some of that out. Have a good day, everyone.